Let's cover the Flemish twist string now. For this style that I'm going to show you guys, you're going to have 3 plies. So there you can see I've got 3 plies that we're going to reinforce the loop by 25 to 50%. You could go up to 100%, but you reinforce the knot at the bottom by 50 to 100%. The bow weight at 15 inches of draw is 20 pounds. We're using 35-pound linen thread. So we're going to take our 20 pounds, we're going to multiply that by 10 to get 200. So whatever that number is for your bow at 15 inches, multiply that by 10. I took that 200 pounds and divided that by the strength of the strands. £35 breaking strength. We want our string to be able to hold 200 pounds. That's called your margin of safety. I divided that by 35, which is our line weight up here. So that comes out to 5.71. So we're going to round up just a little bit, and that'll give us 6. So that's a good number to work with because we can divide 6 by 3 easily to get our plies. 2 strands at 3 ply. 3 plies, and each ply is made up of 2 individual strands. That is going to give me the breaking strength within the margin of safety that I want for 200 pounds. At the loop end, I'm going to add 3 additional strands, and I'm going to add 3 additional strands. I'm going to show you how to do it where you're tying it off in the timber hitch style knot, and I'm also going to show you a more advanced way that you can finish this string off where you end with a second loop. Just depends on what you want. You can make it a little bit longer and then tie on your bottom nock with the timber hitch, and then you can use this string on a couple of different bows as long as you're still within the working margin of safety for the string. I've got my thread and my beeswax. I've got a good sharp knife, my tape measure, and for this I like using a couple of squeeze clamps, and then I've just got a clothespin. If you don't have the clothespin, you can just use a split stick. That will perform the exact same function. These are my reinforcement strands, and I have them in 2 little bundles, and the ends are staggered. So I just went ahead and cut these first. So you have a total of these 3 reinforcement strands per loop for this string. So 6 in total. You're going to need 2 of them at 10, 1 for each bundle, 2 of them at 11, 1 for each bundle, 2 of them at 12. So this bundle that goes in one of the loops has a 10-inch strand, an 11-inch strand, and a 12-inch strand. Exact same thing with this one. So I'm going to set those aside until we need them when we're building the string, but I just have that prepared. I find one of these self-lock tape measures is a little bit handier to use. How long do we want our strands to be to fit our bow? from knock to knock, this bow measures 61.25 inches, so 61.25 from knock to knock. Is you're just going to take your knock to knock measurement. So remember that was 61.25. That's my knock to knock measurement on my bow, and that'd be whatever your bow measurement is. So take that right off your bow, and then you're going to multiply that by 0.33. 61.25 multiplied it by 0.33, right? So that covers us for the third. And I got 20.21. So that's my 1/3. See there? I've got my knock to knock is 61.25. My additional 1/3 measurement is 20.21. I'm gonna make that easy and just round that number up to 20.25, which is 20.25 inches. So just round that number up to the nearest 1/4 of an inch. That'll make your life easier. I add those two together and I get my jig measurement for this bow. For laying out a Flemish twist string, I need 81.5 inches. What I've done is I've set one clamp, C-clamp, just so my measurement doesn't move around at all. I've set one C-clamp here on the end. I've stuck my tape measure on the outside of that C-clamp so that I can measure down and down to here to the outside of this C-clamp, to the outside of the post. I'm at 81.5, and that's the length that my strands are gonna be for this bow. We're gonna take our thread, and this could be, you know, if you wanna get wild with it, it can be thread that you spun yourself. If you're trying to use nettle or dogbane or yucca or whatever you want to try to use, I'm just showing you guys a really easy way with linen thread that you can get through Etsy that you know is going to weigh and have a breaking strength of 35 pounds. It just makes it easy to work with. You can buy thinner stuff too, like 15-pound thread. That just winds up being more strands. 2 strands per ply, and we're doing 3 plies. So we need 2 strands starting out. We need 2 strands to go from this C-clamp down to the other C-clamp. I'm gonna lay my first strand. This doesn't have to be totally exact because your ends are gonna be tapered, so you're gonna wanna have staggered ends anyways. So I just C-clamped, or I just squeeze clamped it right there. You guys can see that. I'm running the thread down. You could be spooling this off of a spool. Okay, here I am down at my mark, which is right here. That's my 81.5. Okay, so I've got it marked right there. Grab your knife, you can use scissors, you can use whatever you want. And all I'm gonna do is cut this at the outside of that post. And there I've got my first strand. So just leave that lay there for a second. Squeeze clamping the second strand in, but look at how I don't have to be right up to the end of that post. Okay, because my tail ends are gonna taper out. And see how I've got that staggered just a little bit? That's what you want. Squeeze clamp that. I'm gonna run this end down just like I did for the last one. That one stops right at the post. See that? So that one's stopping right there. I'm gonna come back just a little bit like I did on the other one, probably 1/2 of an inch from that post, from the post on the C-clamp, okay? So right there, I'm gonna go ahead, without getting too crazy, just cut that off. So there I have my 2 strands that are gonna make up 1 ply. All right, 2 strands, they're gonna make up my first ply. I need a total of 3 of these plies. All right, so now that that's on there, I'm gonna pull this ply off and try to keep the ends right where they're at. This is where it's tricky. So that's why I like using the C-clamp. So I'm gonna pull this like this. I'm gonna take this, I have my beeswax in my hand. I'm taking the C-clamp off, or the squeeze clamp, sorry. I'm still pinching it together like this. I have my entire ply running together, especially at the ends. For the last foot or so, I'm just gonna pull it through that wax. Pinching it there and pulling it through the wax. You don't need a ton of wax on there. It's just to keep, it's not really gonna keep it from unraveling. It basically just keeps it from sliding around. So there I'm pulling it. Same on the other end, pulling it through the wax. And this just helps it, as you're spinning this, helps keep this ply locked together and helps keep it from sliding around, because you want to keep those ends where they're at. You want to keep those tapered ends. See, there's one end, there's the other end. You want to keep them staggered like that on both sides. So I'm going to set this ply aside. I'm going to make 2 more and we'll pick up from there. I'm getting ready to spin. So I've got my strands here. I've got my clothespin. I've got a little bit of the wax, and I've got my tape measure opened up. So when you start to spin this Flemish twist style string, you're going to want to take your 3 plies. This is my 3 plies, and I've got my staggered ends. See how easy that can, when you're working with it, you got to be so careful that you don't knot it up on yourself or get these to where they're not running parallel. That's what you got to watch out for. You got to be real careful. So I'm going to take that out. There we go. I've got my 3 plies laid out. Okay, here's my reinforcement strands. I'm going to take 1 strand each. Okay, I'm going to take 1 strand for each of these plies. 1 reinforcement strand, set those aside. And to lay the reinforcement piece in, all I'm going to do is come in like this, and I'm staggering that end, and you can see how that's running parallel with the ply. It's just shorter because it's only going to run through the eye section. Okay, so I'm bringing that back, and it's right in there, staggered out. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you lay, because you had a 10-inch piece, an 11-inch piece, a 12-inch piece. I'm just laying that reinforcement piece right into that ply. So now on this loop end, for each strand in the eye, I now have 4. Okay, I'm going to do that to all 3 of them here. Real quick, kind of stagger that end in, wax it in. That just helps lock everything in place. Don't worry about the other end yet. Okay, you don't have to put your reinforcement pieces into your other end yet. That's coming later. So there, I've got that piece waxed in. There's my last one. Just laying it in there to where that end staggers out. to where it's not right lined up with another end. So you don't want all of these strands. That's why you don't cut it straight. You don't want all of these strands to just stop in one spot. That will create a very weak spot in the string. That is not what you want. You want these to taper out. Okay. There is our 3 plies reinforced at the eye. Set the wax aside. This will come in later, but keep it handy. All right. We're going to reline up the ends to where they're slightly staggered out. So there's my tapered out ends. I'm up here at 9 inches. Okay, and I'm pinching that together. So right from the 9-inch mark, where I have it pinched together, I've got my 3 plies, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna begin on the one furthest away from me. I'm gonna roll away from myself, pull it over the first strand, pull it over the second strand. Okay, then they're laying flat again. Then I take what was the middle strand is now the furthest strand. I'm rolling it away. I'm pulling it over, pulling it over. This was the strand closest to me. Now it's the strand furthest away, or the ply furthest away. I'm twisting away, pulling over, and we're just gonna repeat that. We're just gonna keep doing that. We're gonna twist away, pull over, pull over. Now, this is where it really helps some folks. You can take this clothespin and see this section of it right up in here. Some guys, I do at least, like to come in once I have a little bit of twist like that, and I'm gonna stick that clothespin right there, right in that little spot to keep it from unraveling. See how that holds everything together? That's nice. Then I don't have to worry about the end where I started from unraveling. I keep going with that same twist. And what I'm looking for is to have 3 inches. And see how we're laying that in, plating that loop. I've got 3 inches spun up. I've got these tag ends. These are going to lay back into the body of the string now. I'm going to take off the clothespin. I'm going to open this back up. There's our 1 ply and the reinforcement strands. I'm going to throw a little bit more wax on that just to hold it together. There's my 2nd ply and my 3rd ply. So there I've got my 3 plies on this side, my 3 plies on this side. I'm going to bring those together. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. This is the hardest part of the whole string. I'm going to bring those together like so, to where I bring this tag end in with where I started. You see that? Now they're together. I'm going to bring that middle strand, line it up with the middle, like that. And this outside together with this tag end. So I just laid that eye back into itself. So right here, I'm on the outside now. I'm going to keep doing the exact same thing that I was doing before. This is the furthest one from the outside, making sure I'm pulling down and really making sure that all stays locked. Pulling over it and over it. Okay, exactly like we twisted before, exactly like how we were plating before. So there's my new outside strand. I'm gonna pull a little bit there, twist down, twist over. There's my last one. I'm gonna give that a little snug tug, pull it over, pull it over. And we're going to continue twisting this down the same way until we're past the longest tag ends. So that's gonna be clear down into here, okay? We're just gonna keep twisting that the exact same way until we're down into there. So over and over, pulling a little bit, and that just helps cinch this up and keep it tight and nice looking. So pull over, pull over, pull it down, pull it in. Right there, it really snugged it up, makes it look nice. If you guys want to, for learning this, another pretty easy way is you can use Dacron, and you can use 3 different colors, right? So each one of your plies, each one of your little bundles would be a different color. It makes a cool looking string. You lay it out the exact same way that I just showed you. Just make sure you stagger your ends. So here the plies get a little twist up. I just run my hand through it like that all the way down to reopen that thing up, and they'll all come back apart like that. Sometimes they stick together a little bit because of the wax, but it's not a big deal. So we'll just keep doing the Flemish twist. Sounds like some kind of 50s, I don't know, 1950s dance move or something. I'm gonna stand back up here. I like to twist these standing up personally, because then I can hold the loop like this and kind of stand up and separate. I'm just lifting the loop end up with my left hand, and with my right hand I'm running down through those strands, and that also helps me keep the majority of the string up off the ground. I'm just trying to sit down so I can be in front of the camera to show you guys. Okay, so there we're still just pulling over, pulling over. If you had spun your initial thread out of nettle or dog bane or whatever, when you get this loop done, you can lay it out the exact same way. Just make yourself a bunch of thread. And you test the breaking strength, lay it out the exact same way that we just did for this string. And then when you get the eye done, I know it won't look as pretty because this eye looks really pretty. What you can do is you can serve this like we did the endless loop string. You can serve this with either really thin rawhide. You could use a real thin leather, like a suede leather. In the old books they talk about using glove leather. I've also used sinew, and that will help this be a little bit more abrasion resistant, but really with the reinforcement strands that we put in there, and that we went a little bit thicker, you know, beefing that up, I think you're going to be fine. Just watch for any fraying on it as you're using it, and periodically wax it. And this linen material is very tough. You're going to be a-okay. So here I'm going to pull up with my hand again and open those strands. Try to keep them from getting all tangled up. That's the key, because that'll make you more frustrated than anything. Is as you're twisting like this, it's also twisting lower down here. Like the main body of the string is twisting on itself. And you want to open that up and prevent that from happening. So here we're getting right to the tag end of that last little bit. That's my last longest little tail right there. I'm gonna make sure I twist all of that in. You don't have to be afraid about this loop unraveling. As the tension goes onto the string, and it's pulling like that, it's gonna really pull everything in tight. And I'll show you how we size this to the bow and how we stretch it out. So here I had my last little tag end. Okay, we don't have to twist the whole way, right? Some guys will want to twist, I'm opening it up. Some guys will want to twist the entire string. You don't have to. I think that, oh, there, I've got one more little tag down in there, sorry. You don't have to twist up the entire string. Like, you don't have to Flemish twist this whole thing. I think what will happen is you just end up putting in a lot more twist than you have to, and it will make it strong, but you're gonna wind up with so much stretch. And if you twist the entire body of this whole thing, it will really have a lot of stretch. I'll show you when we're sizing it to the bow what we can do here. Okay, so there, now we've got all our little bitty tag ends, and I'm opening up the string one last time, running my hands down through it. I'm gonna take that clothespin again, and right there where I stopped, I'm gonna come in right where I stopped doing the twist, same exact spot. I'm gonna lock that in with the clothespin. Now it's not gonna be unraveling while I'm working on my other end. Okay, now let's talk about the other end. You have two options. I'm gonna show you both options, okay? The first option is going to be to just tie a timber hitch into this. We're gonna lay these in exactly like we did before. So right there's an end that staggers out. And we're laying one additional strand in each, just like last time. Exactly like we did before. So I'm really waxing that end. Set that one aside. Bring my other reinforcement piece in. Lay it into the ply like so. Because you know, anywhere that you're tying a knot in this string, it's just like any other type of rope. The knot is going to be the weakest point. Now, some guys will tie a bowline knot. Some guys will tie a straight timber hitch. You know, the knot becomes the weakest point and then becomes the breaking point. That's why I recommended that you reinforce your knot by 50 to 100%. So we're doing a 50% reinforcement here by laying an additional 3 strands in. That's going to reinforce where this knot is going to be. Now, if I was laying in the second eye, which I'm going to show you that as well, you just do the exact same thing, right? With the reinforcement strands, just how I just did. Nothing changes there. All right. For doing the timber hitch, or for doing a knot at the end, what I think really helps at this point is to place the loop that we already have onto the C-clamp, just like that. So I lock that onto the post. That helps me just running this back down. See how I'm just trying to get everything even and get some tension, not a ton of tension, but I'm just trying to make sure that there's not any big kinks in the main body of the string or anywhere where it's wanting to lay up like that. I'm just making sure that everything's laying really parallel and nice, and that it's not a tangled up spider web mess. All right, and it helps to have that hanging or to be kind of suspended off that loop there, I think. So up here is my furthest tapering out strand. Right there. That's my furthest one. So that's where I'm gonna start doing the plating or the twisting again. And what will make life easy, you could even have a second clothespin. I'm gonna clothespin that together again. See how I did that? Just right above where that first reinforcement piece is. So I'm twisting. Got my 3 plies there, starting on the outside again, just like last time, over and over. Making sure that I've got equal tension coming down on all of these strands. Okay, and what we're gonna do is do the exact same type of plating. You could braid it if you knew how to braid, but I'm gonna do the exact same plating type of twist while keeping those reinforcement tag ends. This is where they wanna really be kind of persnickety, and you gotta make sure you have everything waxed together really well. I'm gonna lay this out, and I'm just gonna do the exact same plating twist all the way down the end of this string. Hopefully you guys haven't died of boredom yet. Here's where we're picking up that other strand now. See how we just picked up that next reinforcement strand. You could have it laid off to the side and bring it in as you need to. And say, okay, now we're ready for it. That keeps it from kind of flop spinning out here like that. But once I get low enough and can pull that in, that's no big deal. You just don't want to bring all those ends in together. So that was my third and my last one with my third bundle. So then it gets a little easier because I don't have that thing flopping around out there. Because of all the twisting in here, they will have some stretch for sure and some initial set. So that makes it kind of handy having this adjustable knot end. I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. Like I said, it's my opinion that you don't have to twist the entire body of the string. It's not really necessary. I think it takes way more time, and you're just adding more strength, or sorry, you're just adding more twist, and all that's going to really do is add more strength. Watch this. See how I'm holding the end? Watch what that does. See it kind of untwisting and stretching? You can see it. It's going to do that a little bit till it settles in. You can physically see it move. That's what the excessive twisting into the string will do. You don't really want to do that because it's going to rob a little bit of performance from your bow if it's constantly acting like a coil spring, especially all the way through the main body. Up here in the eye, it's okay. And even then, I'm not crazy excessively twisting it. Linen on its own is a very low stretch material. That's what makes it so awesome for a bowstring. But these Flemish twisted strings like this, I think they're beautiful. I think that my opinion is that they're prettier than the They're definitely prettier than the endless loop strings, but I think my preference for performance is the endless loop string, because I feel like the strands are laying more parallel. The eye is just so cool looking, you know. The eye on the Flemish twist looks a lot cooler. Like that just looks a lot cooler than the endless loop string. And if you get, once you get good at doing them, it really just, you're gonna look like a pro. People are gonna see your work and be like, ooh, wow, you know. I think it adds an element of beauty. You know, the string is really the third part, guys. Don't let it be overlooked in your arsenal. This is really a three-part system where the bow is acting as one part, the arrow is acting as a part, and the string is such a huge piece of the puzzle. You know, if you can start watching these videos and really figuring out how to make these higher quality strings, your self bow game, you know, it's just another piece of the puzzle. You know, it's that third element. Oh, got a piece falling off the tree. And I love it. I've put a lot of time into strings in the last couple of years because I've noticed a big difference. That has been a major, oh, got the breeze picking up. It has been a major, so we're just gonna taper this out. Where the tail ends were, you probably saw me roll that into itself. Okay. So where those tail ends are, we're just gonna keep on going. We're getting real close, guys, hang with me. You gotta have patience. If you're gonna make these high quality, superior strings, it's just like bow making. You know, if you wanna do a good tillering job, you have to be patient. That's what this stuff takes. You're not gonna figure it out overnight, but I'm trying to show you the cheat code. So I'm pulling on this now. I'm pulling on this and you can see how much movement I'm getting. You can see this, see that? Watch this guy. That's kind of what they do. It's down here on this end, just to make life easy, to keep this from unraveling. We're gonna throw right there. You could just do that and have it taper into itself and heavily wax it. I like to throw a quick, just real tighty right on the end. This is not the knot going onto the bow by any means. This is just a quick little overhand knot to keep that from unraveling or going anywhere. Now, we've got this string strung up. It's looking good. I'm gonna put a few twists into the main body of it. So you can see I'm down here. I'm putting in the direction that I was twisting. I'm gonna put just a little bit of twist in it. And what that's gonna do is here at the end, where my plating stopped, it really kind of helps lock that in like that. So don't need a ton of twist. So I just looped my loop back on the C-clamp. Okay, and I can twist it down a little bit to adjust that length. When you guys watched my earlier video about setting these up, I told you that the length for this handle style bow, that you were gonna multiply your knock to knock measurement by 0.955. So that gives us a halfway decent starting point again. So when we had the, it was 61.25 was the knock to knock measurement, and I went over this before. And so multiplying that by 0.955 gives us like 58.5. Okay, a lot of guys will recommend that you set these up and have that you set them up for like 4 inches shorter. That's not a bad idea if you're figuring out where to place your knot, if it's like 4 inches shorter. And if your string's a little bit long on this tag end, that's not a big deal for your knot. You actually could use this on a slightly longer bow too, if you wanted to. So what I'm gonna do here is, right about here is 58.5. Okay, that gives me a good starting point. If I have to twist this string down some to get it to my right brace height, I will. That's not a big deal. So right there at 58.5, you could bring your C-clamp down here if it helped you. I'm just gonna fold that loop over, okay? So I folded that loop over at 58.5, and here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna show you guys this knot. So the knot that I like to use, I like to come in like this. I'm gonna come over it like that. So up here is our 58.5. You could go shorter. Doesn't matter that we have a little tag in there for our reinforcement. All I did was lay it over itself, okay? I'm gonna bring it back up like that. Can you guys see that? See how I brought it back up? And I come around to the inside. And this thing is gonna stretch like crazy at first, okay? To the inside. So twice back through the loop. And on my third time, I like to open this knot back up, or open that bottom initial bite that I made back up. And I like to tuck this tail end back into that. That's just the knot that I like to make. It's been the most secure. And here's what's cool. It gets a little bit whopper jog, but it's not the end of the world. Make sure that we've got that tight. Right up there was our initial loop, right? So we still have our initial loop in the string, like so. It looks kind of twisted up and gnarly at the moment, but just give me a minute. Why I like this and why I like wrapping it around and putting it back through there is because then we have even more of a buffer material if that nock wants to be somewhat abrasive on that knot. So if you're having wear issues, you know, if your bow nock is kind of abrasive on your knot, well, we beefed up this by 50%. You could go up to 100% with additional strands, not a bad idea. And then we beefed it up by 100% by timber hitching it around like that, okay? So I'm just gonna slide this onto the bottom of the bow here and cinch it down. Like I said, you're gonna have to play with the adjustment, but this knot, all you have to do is kind of retie that and slide it up and down to get your brace height where you want it to be. It's typically better to slide that knot down than to put a ton of twisting in it. Okay, and the other issue with linen is that this style of string will stretch some. Oh, we got a little, picked up a hitchhiker there. So this style of string, it's gonna stretch some, right? But this does not stretch nearly as much if you guys have ever used artificial sinew or sinew. That stuff will stretch like crazy. Linen does not. It's only gonna stretch, I don't know, 10, 15% maybe. So the actual thread material itself does not stretch. Adjust your knot down here, kind of up or down a little bit, and to figure out right where you want to be. And I'm just going to adjust the knot. So the main body of this string, where the main body of the string comes up into the knot, I'm going to slide that bite of the knot down some, about like that, okay? And I'm going to pull it through and just rewind it back around itself how it was. And what my goal is to unwind that to a point where I've got it there, and I can pull more. I can pull the slack through on the tail end like that. See how I just pulled the slack through on the tail end? So I'm gonna cinch that back onto the bow. I'm gonna really pull the tail end through. I'm gonna cinch the whole thing down. I'm gonna put a few more twists in it. Brace this up. There we go. I like a 5.5 inch to 6 inch brace height, but like I said, this is gonna settle in. So you just have to play with twisting the main body of the string up a little bit to keep everything locked in. And you're also gonna have to play with this knot. So you just keep adjusting it until you get your brace height where you want it. That covers the knot, so loop and a knot. Let's go into if you want it to have 2 loops. So I've got the initial loop done there, coming down, holding that in place just like we did before with the clothespin. You're gonna lay a second loop. I already told you what the measurement for that handle bow would be in a previous section where I talk about sizing the string. Right there, I'm at 58.5. Here I've got my 3 plies, and I've got my reinforcement pieces set aside here too. That's gonna be where my actual loop loops. We're gonna come down about 1.5 inches. And I'm gonna put that clothespin in there just to mark that. So that's my 1.5 inch mark. Now, I'm gonna come out past that clothespin. I'm gonna come out about 9 inches. And I've got all this extra stuff here. See that? I got extra because this was cut in the same way that I was showing you for doing a knot on the bowstring. So what I'm gonna do is actually trim these out. I'm marking with my finger where the 9 inch mark was without cutting the main body of the string at all. I'm gonna trim these guys, and I'm gonna stagger the ends. I'm gonna trim those right out of there. Okay, so I staggered all the ends. So here I'm just waxing in my reinforcement pieces like before. So from this post, I'm coming back 1.5 inches, putting my clothespin on. I have my reinforcement pieces in there, just like before. I'm gonna put my clothespin on and I'm gonna start my eye right there. Everything's being held in place. That clothespin is a lifesaver. Just wanna make sure I don't have any weird little kinks in it like that. There I'm gonna start doing exactly what I did before with the plating. And we're gonna do that until we have 3 inches. We've got our 3 inches that's spun up. Okay, we're gonna lay this back into itself just like we did before. I took the clothespin off, and I'm coming down here. I'm finding where the individual strands are, the individual plies. There's 1, 2, 3. So I'm gonna line them up here. Outside with outside, middle with middle, the closest one to me with the closest one. And lay all of those guys back in together. It's very tedious because you've got a lot of tag ends at this point. I'm gonna go over, and I like to pull these down a little bit just to really cinch this part of the knot up. So pull over. So you twist away, you pull over both of those strands and give it a little tug. Right here you'll really see that snug up. See that? Pull in tight. That's how you keep that eye looking really tight and really nice and finished out like that. I come back over here. Since I've got that laid out, I'm going to go ahead and take this back off. Opening up the body of that string, right? Making sure that I'm not way too twisted up here. I'm just going to twist, pull in, twist, pull in, twist, pull over, twist, pull over. And periodically, you just keep your fingers inside there like that and just open the string back up. And you're going to spin this all the way to where you have these tag ends woven back in. This is going to stretch quite a bit. Once you put it on the bow, this whole section. Now, linen itself doesn't stretch very much, but the rest of this will. The actual plated part will stretch and settle in as all those fibers tighten against each other, and that's also what holds it tight, right? The friction of these fibers pulling in tight from the weight of the bowstring is what will keep all of this from unraveling, because it's got the wax, which helps, but then it's got like friction against itself, and as it pulls in tight, really keeps that eye tight and nice. Okay, we're still just twisting down. I'm going to open up the string again just to keep it from driving me nuts. There we go, there. We're creeping up on it. And you guys will learn this quick. Those of you guys that haven't done it before, you guys will really pick this up fast, and you'll really start to learn to love it. I've learned to love these linen strings. They're so low stretch and so low mass. They just work so well. And I've had these linen strings, some of them that I've had for years and years. And when you're laying these strings out, you don't always have to go, you always have to stay within the margin of safety I would recommend. But how I built this on the low end and reinforced the loops, if you guys wanted to make a 2-ply 8-strand string, you can. If you guys know how to 2-ply twist, it's a little bit, there's lots of videos about that out there. If you guys know how to do cordage, if you're making your own cordage, you would just 2-ply twist up, your own thread, and then do a breaking test on a scale and see what that breaks at. And that's how you would determine what the rest of the string is going to be, what the thickness, how many strands per ply. Okay, this little tag end is very, very long. I'm going to go ahead and just trim that off because we've got enough length there that's about what you want. So I'm just gonna trim off the excess of that guy with this sweet knife from Jason Smith at Hobo Forge Survival. He's an awesome blacksmith, and it's definitely the nicest knife I own now. I love it. Use it for everything. I've got another one of his here. While we're doing product placement, I also like string building with this a lot because it's just so easy to get in there and trim stuff. This is one of his striker knives. I love this thing. I carry it around all the time. Okay, so we've got that, everything twisted in. The string is laying parallel. There's both of our loops. We're gonna put this loop, I like to put this loop back on the jig where I had it set. It's gonna stretch on this jig, so I've got it back on the jig. You guys can see me stretching it. I like to stretch it like this, kind of before I have it on the bow. I'm gonna stretch it a little bit once it's on the bow as well. There we go. Just really pulling against that, trying to get the stretch out. Okay. So now I'm gonna throw that on the bow. I'm letting that just kind of settle. I threw a few twists in here just to help lock it in up here, especially at the loop. And the string may settle in a little bit more, but we're right about the brace height that I like. Okay, about 6 inches. And we got through today showing you guys how to make the knot style string with the timber hitch and the double loop style string. Any of these little tags, you can just trim those off, no big deal. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If there's anything else you guys want to see, just let me know, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.